Ladies and gentlemen, we are not arising from the shadow room. I'm extremely fatigued. My body is sore from going to the gym and clanging and banging these doggone weights, but we ain't talking about that right now. All my trial and tribulation regarding with my body. We are live and Hold My Nuggets Incorporated in the West Wing. Well, not really the West Wing, but regardless, this is your 2019 NFL Week 12 post-game analysis show. I am your host, the founder, and the CEO, the diligent, vigilant, meticulous, sagacious, conscientious, analytical, methodical individual, the Chiseled Adonis. Let's first break down exactly what transpired Thursday Night Football. Controversial finish. I was live on the Hot Mic app while it transpired as well. We saw the Houston Texans take down the visiting Indianapolis Colts to take first place in the AFC South with a 20-17 win. Before we even get into the statistics, we can all agree that was a fumble by Deshaun Watson. I understand the argument that, hey, you did not see a clear-cut recovery from Darius Leonard and the Indianapolis Colts, even though he did emerge from the pile with the football. However, we can all come to a consensus that there should have been a review. It's ridiculous to have the game pretty much on the line here. Granted, it was a second down at this time, but still, there's no reason why this shouldn't have been, brought to review. But let's get into the statistics, then we'll come back to the fumble. First and foremost, Jacoby Brissett on the day was 16 for 25, 124 yards, and a rushing TD. There was no Marlon Mack, no returner to Mack. He's still suffering from that fractured hand. Jonathan Williams stepped in and did very well, I might add, with 26 carries for 104 yards and a TD. T.Y. Hilton got absolutely clamped up. He had two terrible drops in the second half. Terrible drops. These were balls that should have been caught, but this man's hands was just for decoration. I said in the beginning of my live stream of this game, the dreadlocks would prevail. It only showed up for the Houston Texans. For the Colts, they had ample opportunities, and both those drops were on drives, on third down drops, I might add, where they could have possibly either put through a field goal or put 7 on the board. Inexcusable behavior from T.Y. Hilton's hands. You gotta play better football. For the Houston Texans, Deshaun Watson through the air, he was 19 for 30, 298 yards, 2 TDs. Carlos Hyde-and-Seek on the ground, 16 for 67. And Will Fuller in his return, 7 catches, 140 yards. DeAndre Hopkins gave 2 touchdown balls to his blind mother with 6 catches for 94 yards. Sensational effort from the Texans offense. But like I spoke about a little bit earlier, that fumble should have went to review. And I don't care what anybody says. That was a clear recovery, in my opinion, by Darius Leonard. It's ridiculous. It's ludicrous. It makes no sense as to why they did not go to review. This is the issue that fans have with referees. This is the issue that organizations have with referees, because you cannot trust them. We saw another call later on that I'm going to talk about between the Cowboys and the Patriots, where it's just a terrible officiating. This makes no sense. When you're taught to play the game, whether you're in Pop Warner, high school, college, in the NFL, and the pros, whatever the case is, you always, have this consensus amongst the players, amongst the coaches. You don't allow the referees to influence the game. It shouldn't all come down to one call. But damn it, week after week, we're seeing teams fall victim to terrible calls or no calls whatsoever, and that being the reason why they lose. If we're going to single out in individual plays that were turning points or individual plays that may have cost a team the game, it's about time we start doing that with officials. I used to be the person saying, hey, you can't blame this kicker for losing the entire game because the team should have put the team in a position, to play a little bit better. But you know what, damn it, to hell with all of that. I used to be the person saying, hey, you can't blame it on the official for this one call in the third quarter because early in the game, no, to hell with that. If this is a play at the end of the game, regardless of when it happens, momentum is everything in football. There's an ebb and flow when you play. You can't go out there when it's crunch time and you need to get a stop. You do get that stop, you recover the football, and the officials say, oh no, if the possession stays with the original ball carrier, and more importantly, we're not going to go to review even though we're under 2 minutes and you cannot challenge. It made no sense to me. It made absolutely no sense to me. And on top of that, what is the harm in going to review? And they missed another 12 seconds. The tackle happened with like 1:42 left, and then all of a sudden the next snap happened at 48 seconds. That makes no sense. You can't just take another, 12 seconds off the board. You cost the Colts an opportunity to even try to get the football back because they stopped them on third down, and then on fourth, Watson just threw it into the air. It's ridiculous, man. These refs are screwing every single team, and if your team did not get screwed yet, it's going to happen because we've seen this. Every single team has been getting screwed all season long. It's ridiculous, man. But victory for the Texans. They take the lead in the AFC South, and right now the Colts are on the outside looking in to the playoff race. Why am I wearing a coat when I'm inside my house? Well, damn it, I ain't feel like going upstairs and putting up a shirt. Granted, let's move on to Seattle taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, where we saw Seattle win 17-9. I'll say this much: a terrible outing for the Philadelphia Eagles. I heard they had 6 offensive starters who were out, but still, terrible performance. Carson Wentz did not play good by any estimation. By any estimation. He's not getting any help from his receivers. They're not getting open. They're dropping footballs. The offensive line's not giving them protection. They had 4 different situations. I believe it was 2 interceptions and 2 fumbles, or 3 fumbles and 1 interception. Whatever the case may have been, it was not a good outing. And Seattle offensively didn't really do that well. The Philly defense held them somewhat in check. You held them to 17 points, and this is a Philly defense that has been, struggling throughout the season. But as of late, they've been doing their job. You held New England to 17, but your offense could not put up any points. You held Seattle to 17. Your offense could not put up any points. A lot of people questioning how good Carson Wentz really is. I still do believe he's a sensational quarterback, but this team just needs to be healthy. They need to be healthy. Now, regarding the playoffs, again, I do not feel as if there will be any representatives of the NFC, East, who is the wild card team. Division winner and wild card teams a little bit different. Wild card is seed number 5 and 6. Those dudes who got to go on the road for every single game. That's completely different. I know there's going to be somebody say, no, that makes no sense because they're always on playing on wild card weekend if you're the 4th seed. No. I'm talking about as somebody who has to play an away game on the first week. I do not see 2 representatives of the NFC East in the playoffs race at all. All right, so whoever wins the division will be the representative for the NFC East. But between the Cowboys and the Eagles, initially I said the Cowboys would be the ones going to the playoffs. I've since switched my, choice. I think the Eagles will be able to make it because the Cowboys, of their 5 remaining games, they've got 3 very tough opponents in contrast to the Eagles, who have 5 winnable games. Or I should say 4 winnable games, and then also that showdown with the Cowboys. We'll see as time comes. I'll be talking about it a little bit more extensively on the podcast, Hold My Nuggets with Marv Glover, either this week or next week. But still, for Seattle, good victory for them. They need to keep pace with the 49ers, who absolutely thrashed the Green Bay Packers, much to my chagrin, because I thought the Packers was going to thrash the 49ers. Evidently, a brother can be wrong. But good victory for Seattle. Next, Detroit taking on Washington. The first victory for Dwayne Haskins. I'll say this much. Detroit finds ways to Detroit their way out of W's. Game was tied up 16-all. And then you throw a costly interception. Ridiculous by Jeff Driscoll. Ridiculous. And you didn't really have too much of a ground game presence from Washington. This was just a game of 2 bad teams where they don't have anything figured out at quarterback. Yet again, we did not see Matthew Stafford. I heard some talks about, hey, they might shut him down for the season. I'm not sure how that'll play out. If I'm them, I get it. I do. There's nothing left to play for. The playoffs is pretty much out of reach at this point, unless there's a miracle from God, and every team would have to lose, and you would have to keep winning to try to make the playoffs. But it's pretty much clipped. Take the L out of love. It's over, brother. There's no playoff for the Detroit Lions, so you might as well just shut down Stafford. And for the Washington Redskins, this was one of those games that you needed to win to build that confidence for Dwayne Haskins. He's finally got that W in his belt. So we'll see how he plays moving forward. He got so emotional about the W, he wasn't even able to take the final kneel down. This man was taking selfies with fans. He was taking selfies with fans because he was so overwhelmed by finally getting that W. He done forgot, hey, I got a job to do to go take this kneel down. Who knows? Maybe he was trying to protect his fantasy stats so he didn't take a knee down and have a -1 and cost somebody a championship. Well, not championship in week 12, that would make sense. But cost somebody possible seeding to get into the fantasy playoffs. Whatever the case was, it was a good victory for the Washington Redskins in a back and forth game, and hell of a field goal kick by Dustin Hopkins to give them the lead. So I'll say this much. Redskins took care of business, but this was a game that really doesn't impact anything else but, team morale and how players will play moving forward. But good victory for the Redskins. Next, the Jets taking on Oakland, where we saw a ton of necrophilia, where it's 34-3 in favor of the Jets. The Gruden Grinders did not grind. Let me just tell you this much. Regarding the opening possession, you saw both teams exchange field goals. And then what happened? The Jets defense happened to force the Raiders offense to do this. Punt, missed field goal. Punt, turnover on downs. Threw a pick six. Punt, fumble. Punt. What does that mean? The Jets defense came to play. Absolutely shut down the Gruden Grinders. There was no run game. There was no pass game. Nothing. Nada. Zilch. Zero. The Raiders got absolutely shut down. They didn't get off the bus. We could point towards jet lag. We could point towards, a fatigue. Whatever the deal was, they did not show up, and the Jets came and showed out. Sam, I look like a Lego police officer. Darnold was 20 for 29, 315, and 2 TDs against this Raiders, secondary that has been intercepting everybody over the course of the last month. And the Jets simply came to play. This is the defense that we expected the Jets to play coming into this season. A lot of people didn't have too much high hopes. I believed in the Jets, and in my opinion, had Sam Darnold not gotten hurt, I think the Jets could be sitting at 6-5 right now. Honestly, I think the Jets easily could be sitting at 6-5, or mess around and be 7-4, because they really should not have lost to Buffalo in the opening weekend. Whatever the deal is, the Jets currently sitting at, I believe they are 4-7 right now. They could possibly get to 5-7 next week, but playoffs for them, it seems like it's going to be out of reach, but they still are in the hunt, in my opinion, because I do believe in the playoff race of the AFC, you can mess around and have 7 losses and get in. Honestly, I think 10-6 will be the floor. However, I would not be surprised if somebody who's 9-7 mess around and sneak in there. Because Tennessee, you never know what sort of team is going to show up. Pittsburgh, I would love to say you're not too sure what team is going to show up, but they won 5 of their last 6. So we'll see what happens in the coming weeks when they play against teams like Buffalo, upcoming against Cleveland, even when they go and play against Arizona. Tomlin has a history of playing down to competition, so we'll see how they play. Cleveland, they've rattled off some wins now, but can they stay consistent? And then you still got Oakland. You saw them lose a very winnable game this past weekend. And you can't forget what's happening with Indianapolis. So we'll see what transpires moving forward. But that 6th seed, who knows who'll get their hands on that. But yeah, good victory for the Jets. The Carolina Panthers taking on the New Orleans Saints. Joey Slye, I'll get to you in a little bit. Kyle Allen and the Carolina Panthers showed a very good effort coming back into this game, because I believe they were down 31-15, or was it 24-9? It was something where they were up by 2 scores, and the Carolina Panthers kept fighting and came back. On the day, Kyle Allen was 23 for 36, 256 yards, and 3 TDs. All right, DJ Moore, 6 catches, 126 yards, 2 TDs. CMC, 22 carries, 64 yards, a TD, 9 catches, 69 yards, and a TD. And they fought all the way back, and with 2 minutes left to play, this man, Joey Slye, misses a chip shot. I believe it was a 28-yard field goal wide to the right. You've got to be kidding me. More importantly, I believe he missed 2 extra points as well. You're leaving points on the field. And that final kick, inexcusable. How do you miss it? I saw a video of a guy from New Orleans trying to do voodoo while Joey Slye was lined up for the kick, talking about chicken feet, and the guy ended up missing. You got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. For the offense of the Saints in the second half, they've gone stagnant, but they played very stellar. All right, Drew Brees' Jesus was 30 for 39, 311 yards, 3 TDs, 1 INT. The most Latavius of Murray's, 7 carries, 64 yards, and a TD. Alvin Shinsuke Nakamura had 11 carries for 54 yards, and I think he had 48 yards through the air to boot. Then Michael Thomas, $100 million man, 10 catches, 101 yards, and a TD. And he's been playing sensational all season. He is in the MVP talks as well. However, I don't feel as if he's going to get it, because Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson are just on another level this season. Michael Thomas is on another level himself, but I don't think he's galvanizing his team the way that Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson is. But we ain't talking about that right now. But Also, you can't forget Jared Cook going out here with 6 catches and 99 yards and the TD. All right, but the Saints nearly blew it. In fact, they should have blown it. I cannot say if Joey Slye makes that field goal, the Saints don't go down the field and score. However, that's a chip shot. You've got to make that. Your team fought all the way back. I don't want to hear anything about, oh, you know, that there was a ton of different things that happened in the game. No. This is on Joey Slye. This is entirely on Joey Slye. 2 missed extra points. That's 2 points. And the missed field goal. This was a game you should have won. His toes cost you the game. His mind cost you the game. His foot cost you the game. He's got to play better. And Carolina needed this victory. They needed it to keep pace in the NFC wildcard. And right now, it's not looking like you're fixing to get it. Seattle only got 2 losses. Minnesota only got 3 losses. I do not envision anybody in the NFC who's making that wild card losing more than 5 games. I just do not see it happening. I don't think Minnesota will lose I don't think they're going to lose 3 of their next 5. Maybe 2. I don't see Seattle losing 3 of their next 5. I just don't. I think Seattle will still win the division over San Francisco. I think San Francisco will lose a game. And then that'll put Seattle a little bit ahead. And now Seattle having, you know, the bravado of, hey, we beat you before, having to play them again. And I think Seattle will get them twice. But right now, in the wild card, it looked like that was Carolina's last chance. And Thanksgiving, New Orleans has a chance to wrap up the division. Carolina needed this victory, and Joey Slye blew it, man. Tough loss, 34-31 in favor of the Saints. All right, Cleveland taking on Miami. Necrophilia. The score may have been 41-24, but it really was not that close. Ryan Fitzpatrick on his birthday throwing for his 200th touchdown on his career. But did it help them come back and win? Absolutely not. All right, it was Necrophilia from start to finish. They jumped out to a 28-0 lead, I believe. I know it was 21-0 for sure, but I believe, I think it was 28-0 lead in the first half. Whatever the deal was, all right? Baker Mayfield, 24 for 34, 327 yards, 3 TDs, 1 INT. Nick Chubb on the ground, 21 carries, 106 yards, and the TD. Jarvis Landry, 10 catches, 148 yards, 2 TDs. OBJ, 6 catches, 84 yards, and his first TD in, I believe, 8 games. The Browns played masterclass football offensively. More importantly, Kareem Hunt got into the end zone for the first time as a Cleveland Brown. So it was just a sensational game from start to finish offensively. Defensively, they gave up some points, but they were so far ahead, there was going to be no comeback. All right, this is the kind of football that we expected to see the Browns play coming into the season. But once again, we've seen them play this way against defenses that are ticky-tacky. Even when they played against Pittsburgh and won 21-7 last week, you saw them get pretty much shut out in the second half. And you cannot deny the fact that 2 of their touchdowns, they were gifted sensational field position from their defense. That's no slight on the offense, because it's on the defense to put your offense in the position to, you know, get shorter, you know, field situations for you to punch the ball into the end zone. But I would like to see the Browns go on lengthy drives down the field. And I'm talking about 10 plays, 80 yards, and a TD. Similar to what we saw Baltimore do last night. Whatever the deal was, good victory for the Browns. That's something to be proud of. They're keeping pace in that race for the wild card spot, now at 5-6, playing against Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, where they're favored to win. Luckily for them, or I should say, unluckily for them, Mason Rudolph is not playing. Had Rudolph been playing, you know, they'd have probably been favored by 100. Whatever the deal may be, good victory over the Dolphins. All right, Giants taking on the Chicago Bears, where we saw the Giants fall 19-14. I'll say this much. What cost this team the game? All right, back-to-back missed field goals going into halftime. Aldrich Rosas could not put the ball through the uprights and good. That's unfortunate. All right, Danny Dimes went out there 21 for 36, 150 yards and 2 TDs. But Chicago's defense did what they had to do to get themselves a W, all right? They did what they had to do. We saw a sighting of Khalil Mack for the first time in some number of weeks, to where his impact was felt. All right, that defense, they covered very well. They set up a ton of 4th down situations. In fact, the Giants' second touchdown was on a miraculous, I think it was like 4th and 18, when Golden Tate caught it amongst like 3 Chicago Bears. That was spectacular, but it still was not enough for the Giants to come back and win. Mitch Trubisky was 25 for 41, 278 yards, a TD, but 2 INTs. Allen Robinson, 6 catches, 131 yards, and a TD. This is the Allen Robinson that the Bears have needed. This is the Allen Robinson and the performance that the Bears desperately needed. But there's still questions about Mitch Trubisky. There's still a ton of questions. He ran it into the end zone for his touchdown. He did not throw. Well, he did throw a touchdown to Allen Robinson, but still, his other touchdown, it was on the ground. I would like to see Mitch play better. He's got a little bit better with the deep ball on this particular game, but still, I'd like to see better performance from him. Because honestly, I cannot envision a circumstance in which this man is the starting quarterback next year. Unless he's able to pull off some sort of miracle and they make it to the playoffs, then by all means, keep him. But if you want to explore some options, possibly trade for Cam, I'm all for it. He's got to play better. Bottom line, the Bears keeping their hopes alive to make a playoff push, but to be quite honest with you, like I said, I cannot envision anybody with more than 5 losses making this wild card in the NFC. But good victory for the Bears. Buffalo taking on Denver. This game was only 20-3 in favor of the Bills, but it was necrophilia from start to finish. The Denver offense could do nothing. 134 yards total offense. They gave up 4 sacks and did nothing. Defensively, all right, Gore passed, or I should say, offensively for the Bills, Frank Gore passed Barry Sanders for 3rd all-time on the all-time rushing list. Sensational effort from him. Proud of this man's contribution to the game. Sensational. Singletary had his very first 100-yard game of his career. Josh Allen was 15 for 25, 185, and 2 TDs. The Denver defense looks completely inept. They can't stop anybody, let alone get to the quarterback. Von Miller's probably having the worst season of his career. The worst. His impact is just not felt. But the entire team is bad. Brandon Allen, I think they had like 40, yards passing or some 49 yards passing. You can't win like that. Denver needs to blow everything up and start from scratch. I don't know if that means Elway got to go, but whatever the case is, they've got to play better. They have to play better. Their season's pretty much done. Nobody really expected too much from them coming into the season anyway, but they're in the rebuilding phase, especially since they traded away Emmanuel Sanders, who was one of the lone bright spots on that offense. Phillip Lindsay underperforming. Cortland Sutton has been playing very well thus far this season, but still, this particular game, the Bills completely suffocated that offense for Denver, and they're not one of those defenses like they were in 2015 to where that defense put points on the board. They're struggling enough to try to stop somebody. They're giving up a ton of rush yards, and now their offense can't get past 3 downs, and you expect them to win? Good victory for the Bills, man. At home in Buffalo Wild Wings. Next, Tampa Bay taking on Atlanta. This was a surprising game for me because Tampa came to play. Jameis Winston threw an early interception to Desmond Trufant and just completely answered and shut down all doubters that he'd be able to pull out this victory. With I think it was a 71-yard touchdown pass to Chris Godwin. On this day, Jameis Winston was 18, 428, 313, 3 TDs, 2 INTs, and Chris Godwin, 7 catches, 184 yards, and 2 TDs. Very good game from the Buccaneers. Very good game. Defensively, they came to play as well. They sacked Matt Ryan on 6 different occasions. They intercepted him, and on top of that, they took a fumble and took it into the end zone. So not only did they get to Ryan, they intercepted him, and they forced him to fumble, took the ball into the end zone and put some points on the board. It got so bad, Matt Schaub had to come in, and I believe their lone fourth or second half score was from Schaub. But good victory for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is what Jameis Winston needs if he wants to maintain that job. Remember, last year to close out the year, Jameis started to play a little bit better. Maybe he can keep that going this particular season. Who knows? As I said, playoffs, it's out of the question. But if he can put together a solid 5 final games, maybe that can be a confidence booster going into next season. For the Falcons, it's just been a season of straight up turmoil. That's all it's been. Season of straight up turmoil. They've got to play better. They have got to play better. Address the offensive line this offseason. Get yourself a solidified running back because Devontae Freeman can't stay healthy. And to be quite honest with you, he is simply not it. There should be no questions regarding quarterback. Matt Ryan is a very, very good quarterback. I don't want to hear nobody who's an Atlanta Falcons fan, downplaying how good Matt Ryan is or how his contributions to the team, because I feel as if that's disrespectful. It's not like the man goes out there and he's a scrub every single week. That's not the case. Take a look around him. All right, Dan Quinn, your job fixing to be gone after week 17 is over. I ain't even wearing no watch, but I know it's clobbering time in the front office, and by clobbering time, I ain't talking about CM Punk. I'm talking about your job being ate up like it's a goddamn piece of lobster at Nick's Lobster House. Shout out to them, they follow me, and also they gave me an offer, go out there, so I might just go over there. It's not too far from my house anyway. We ain't talking about that right now. All right, then the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Tennessee Titans in Tennessee. Oh, Henry, because this man murdered their team. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know if Derrick Henry has pet Jaguars in his house. I don't know if he hates the brand Jaguar, the car. I'm not sure what's happening, because every time he plays against the Jags, this man murders them. More importantly, the Achilles heel for the Jacksonville Jaguars is the Tennessee Titans. They simply cannot beat them. They cannot beat them. When the Jags went 14-2 in 1999, they lost in the playoffs. They lost twice in the season. All 3 losses were the Tennessee Titans. They cannot beat the Titans. They cannot beat them. Ryan, Jack, and Jill went up to Tannehill. 4 TDs on the day. 2 through the air, 2 on the ground. Derrick Henry, all right, he ran for 159 yards on 19 carries, 2 TDs. All right, the Jacksonville tried to make a comeback. Jacksonville tried to make a comeback late. All right, Leonard Fournette with 2 late touchdowns. He had, I think, 97 yards on the day. But Nick Foles, there's only so much he can do if you're falling behind. And on top of that, the Jags had, what was it? I think it was a ton of time of possession. I believe they led in time of possession. I can't recall. But it was just a little too late. Tennessee took care of business. Tannehill is 4-1 as a starter. Can he keep this up? I believe it's possible, but Tennessee as a whole has just got to stay consistent. Every single time, and I've spoke about this, where I said, hey, when I pick for the Titans to win, they lose. When I pick against them, they win. I'm not sure what team shows up on a weekly basis, but when that run game gets going, they're a hard team to beat. I'm sorry. A lot of people, they overlook the Titans. When the run game is working for the Titans, they are a very tough team to beat. So if they can keep this up, they can be somebody scary going into the postseason. And I understand that defense is nothing to, blink at or anything like that. That passing attack is nothing special. But if Derrick Henry gets going, he can be something that can galvanize that team to get going. Because when that crowd starts cheering, Henry, 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 it's like you feel it in your spirit. Even watching at home, if you're playing against your team, you're like, oh snap, what the hell's going to happen? Mind you, they're only a game behind Houston. They're right there with Indianapolis. I can't recall what the split in the division is. But if Tennessee can stay right here and they come down to a final showdown at the end of the year, because I know it's divisional matchups in week 17. So if things can play in their favor, they can mess around and make it to the playoffs, man. Good victory for Tennessee. Next, Dallas and New England. All right. Oh boy. This was first. It looked like as if it was a damn monsoon in the first half. There was rain everywhere. N'Keal Harry came back for I believe this was his first game of the season. He had a touchdown reception. Julian Edelman had 8 catches for 93 yards. Sony Michel 20 carries, 85 yards. Tom Brady 17 for 37, 190 and a TD. For the Cowboys, Dak 19 to 33, 212 yards in INT. Zeke 21 carries, 86 yards. And Amari Cooper 0 catches. Stephon Gilmore took this man out of the game. People were talking about Amari Cooper emerging as an elite receiver, as since he came to the Cowboys, he's been balling. But Stephon Gilmore is the best corner in the league. Completely eliminated this man from the depth chart whatsoever. He had 0 stats. That fourth quarter catch, when they said he finally made a play, ball bounced right off the floor. But I'll say this much. The referees screwed the Cowboys in this game. Not to say the Cowboys were guaranteed to go down the field and score a touchdown, because that's exactly what they needed, trailing 13-9 with 2 minutes left to play. But they called a tripping call, which was absolutely atrocious. talk about bad calls. That was terrible. And they called, I think, 2 in this game. The first one, all right. The second one, they said because he lifted his leg while trying to block. He did not trip him. There was no tripping. And you cost them a 3rd and 1 conversion, setting up 4th and long. You've got to be kidding me. Again, the referees influence a game and cost a team an opportunity to win. Now, I'll say this game was a little bit different than what happened with Carolina and New Orleans. Because Dallas had 3 opportunities to put points on the board regarding touchdowns, and they did not. Especially on their last scoring drive when they ended up getting the field goal. Randall Cobb had a big-time reception, and I believe he brought them inside the 20, and they failed to score a TD. Jason Garrett, you've got to coach better, because you literally had the Patriots offense on the ropes. They did not play well by any estimation. And you guys lost again. Defensively, the Cowboys defense showed up. I said the Patriots run game would not be that big of a factor. And to be quite honest with you, it wasn't. Yes, Sony Michel ran for 85 yards, but the linebacking core and the D-line came to play for the Cowboys. This was a game they should have won, and their offense let them down. Bottom line. And I understand the frustration with the call, and I agree it should not have been a call. More importantly, the NFL came out and apologized to Dallas, saying that the tripping call was a load of malarkey. It was utter rubbish. It was bullets. It shouldn't have happened. But the Cowboys got to finish in the end zone. You cannot go to Foxborough, settle for field goals, and think you're going to walk out with a W. You got to get into the end zone. Bottom line. Tough loss for them boys, but they got to play better, man. They got to play better. Now you're sitting at 6-5. Eagles is sitting at, 5-6, and they're not too far from you. This was an opportunity to continue to, I don't want to say bridge the gap, because that brings it a little bit closer. Widen the gap between Philly and Dallas, and you missed another opportunity. This will be the reason why Dallas does not go to the playoffs. Because they lose games that they have an opportunity to win. When it comes down to the 4th quarter, they're losing these close games when they should be able to finish. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Good victory for the Patriots. This was one of those games where I looked at it and said, you know what? That defense came to play. Offensively, there's still questions. There's still a ton of offensive woes and questions about how good this Patriots team really is. All right, there's no question for me how good their defense is. Yes, I understand they dropped one against Baltimore, but still, this is an elite defensive group. If that game was played in Foxborough, I think we would have had a different outcome. Not to say that, the Ravens can't walk into a certain sort of building and beat a team, but I don't think it would have been that sort of thrashing. I think Baltimore would have still won in a close game, but still, had this game had happened in New England, that defense would have probably played better. And I think this defense is still an elite defense, and they came to play. But for the Cowboys, they've got to play better. Bottom line. But good victory for the Patriots. Necrophilia on the primetime games, because we saw San Francisco absolutely thrash the Green Bay Packers when I thought the Green Bay Packers would thrash San Francisco 37-8. I'll say this much. Aaron Rodgers did not have time whatsoever. The pass rush was there all day. I think he only got sacked like 4 times on the day. But no, 5 times he got sacked. But it could have easily been 10. The man was pressured all day. He had no time. No run game whatsoever. Aaron through the air, 20 for 33, 104, and the TD. I believe this was his lowest, average yards per pass ever. Terrible performance from Aaron Rodgers. All right. Then Devontae Adams, I think he had like 47 yards in the lone touchdown and 2-point conversion. But still, he's got to play better as well. 5 3-and-outs for this Packers offense. They were 6% on 3rd down. Only 6% on 3rd down conversion. You can't win football games like that. They had 35 minutes time of possession because when the San Francisco 49ers got their hands on the ball, they scored early, they scored often. Porn star Jimmy G, 14 for 20, 253, and 2 TDs. Greg Kittle. I said Greg. George Kittle, 6 catches, 129 yards, and a TD. And like I said earlier, that defense got 5 sacks. That defense for the 49ers is legit, man. It's legit. Okay, I thought this would be a game in which they lay an egg. Damn it, that ain't what happened. They came to play. Can't believe I almost said Jerry Kittle or Greg Kittle. What the hell's wrong with me? But still, good victory for the 49ers. For the Packers, this was a game you got punched in the mouth. Now you've got to respond. You have got to respond. You're sitting at 8-3. You're still leading your division, but Minnesota's right there. Minnesota is right there. If I'm the Packers, you cannot afford to have to go on the road when postseason comes around. You need that home field advantage because Lambeau Field is a home field for Aaron Rodgers. They got to play better. Bottom line, got to figure that running game out, and more importantly, that offensive line has got to block. They got to figure out what the hell they're going to do with their offensive tackles because what they're doing right now, that ain't it. Play better football, goddammit. Next, the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Los Angeles Rams in another game of necrophilia where we saw the Baltimore Ravens win 45-6. All right, LA Coliseum, or I should just say the state of California, had nothing but necrophilia on this particular week. All right, Oakland, although they were playing in New Jersey, they got blown out 34-3. Then you saw San Francisco blow out Green Bay in the state of California 37-8. Then you saw the Rams get blown out 45-6. It was not a good week for, Los Angeles teams. And the Chargers lost on a bye week. All right, let's not get into that. But still, terrible outing for the state of California. The Rams, Todd Gurley, 6 carries, 22 yards. You've got to be kidding me. Cooper Kupp did nothing. Jared Goff is out here looking like Ryan Gosling because he was nothing but a liability with 26 completions, 37 attempts, 212 yards, and 2 INTs. 2 situations in which they got into the red zone, they had to settle for Greg Zuerlein field goals. You got to put points on the board regarding touchdown. It needs to be TDs. And their defense, my God, their defense. They probably stopped 1 third down in the Ravens' first 10 attempts on third down. It was crazy how easily the Baltimore Ravens were able to move the football down the field. More importantly, Baltimore scored TDs on their first 6 possessions. Could not be stopped. Coming into this game, Wade Phillips and the Rams were holding offenses, or I should say they were holding the rush per game of their adversaries to, I think it was like 89 yards. They were 4th in the NFL. They gave up 173 in the first half. 285 on the day. Lamar Jackson, 15 of 20, 169 yards, 5 TDs, and over 80 yards on the ground. Mark Ingram, 15 carries, 111 yards, a TD, and a receiving TD. Hollywood Brown, 2 TD catches. Willie Snead, 2 TD catches. On top of that, they were 60% on third down. You've got to play better. With 40 minutes of time of possession, the Rams did not stand a chance from the kickoff to the final kneel down. Might I add, I said Marcus Peters would catch an interception, and he did. The Ravens are rolling. In my opinion, it's between themselves and the 49ers as the best teams in the NFL. And in my opinion, I'm leaning more towards Baltimore. Not only are they the best team in the AFC, they're the best team in the NFL. I think they could take the 49ers, and we're fixing to see that next week. We're going to find out who's the best team in the NFL. But right now, the way the Ravens are playing, goddammit, I don't know if they can be beat. Lamar Jackson is somebody who nobody is able to figure out thus far this season. You would think people would try to implement what you saw last year in the playoffs when the Chargers put 7 DBs in the box. Oh no, that's not the deal. That ain't what happened. No team is trying to do that. Let's lose our slow-ass linebackers to try to contain them outside, but we're going to continue to condense on a straight line, and then Lamar bounces out because he's got athletic ability to break people's ankles, so all he got to do is just make one move. You're completely over-pursuing, and at that point, I have free reign to run down the field. Ridiculous job from the Rams. Ridiculous job. Aaron Donald got those 2 Defensive Player of the Year. They might as well have been caught up in cobwebs because he has not been playing his best. Terrible effort from the Rams. Good Lord. Terrible effort. And last but not least, Pittsburgh defeating Cincinnati on 16-10. I'll say this much. Cincinnati did have the lead early, but they did nothing in the second half. All right? What you saw was Snell run for 21 carries, 98 yards, 4 sacks from the Pittsburgh defense. They held the ball for, I believe it was 34 minutes and some change as well. Defensively, 3 turnovers that they were able to force on the Cincinnati offense, where you saw 2 fumble recoveries and an INT, and Mason Rudolph got pulled. He could not finish the game because of his ineptitude to play the quarterback position. I was somebody when Mason Rudolph got drafted, I said, hey, maybe this can be the heir to the throne for Ben Roethlisberger. When Roethlisberger is out, let me see what Mason Rudolph has. And I felt as if he has the intangibles, he has the mechanics to that can be a very good quarterback. But mentally, he ain't there yet. I used to think, hey, maybe it's the coaches that refuse to let him throw the ball vertically down the field. He not reading coverages. Maybe that's why they held him back from being able to use, that vertical passing down the field. Maybe that's why they kept wanting him to dump the ball off, and screen passes here and there. Duck Hodges came right into the game. His second pass attempt, 71-yard TD to James Washington, who stiff-armed a Cincinnati Bengal out of existence. There's no confidence when Mason Rudolph is at quarterback. But Delvin Hodges comes in and all of a sudden it's quack quack. We're in Cerulean City. Call out Misty. We got side-ups on the field doing dirt. Great relief effort from Duck Hodges. Got themselves a W, and now Pittsburgh gets back on track, winning 5 of their last 6. Now sitting at 6-5, a game ahead of the Browns in the AFC North, with this matchup coming up this Sunday to solidify who will possibly be that 6th seed. You still do have Houston, or I should say, you still do have Indy, you still do have Oakland, you still do have Tennessee. No disrespect to those guys, but from where we sit right now, I believe the Browns, if the Browns beat the Steelers, the Browns would jump into that 6th seed ahead of those other teams, if I'm not mistaken. But Pittsburgh is sitting right now at the 6th seed. But good victory for Pittsburgh, and good victory for every single team that did get a W in Week 12. It was good football for the most part, not as good as the past couple of weeks. So I'm excited to see what things will look like this upcoming Thursday. But for teams like Dallas, you got to play better, man. You have got to play better, because Dallas has potential to win playoff games and possibly make a run, but they cannot continue to play down and not play as good as they're able to as good as they're capable of. It's ridiculous to me. It's ridiculous to me. And I'm not even people think I'm a Cowboys hater because I make fun of them. I have no issue with the Cowboys. I have no qualms with the Cowboys. They're a very exceptional team, or at least they could be an exceptional team this season. They're not getting it done. Something has got to be done. I'm happy that Jason Garrett's not getting extended, because this guy, he is hand clap popping. Call him Mr. Chlamydia, because this man don't do nothing but clap it up. They've got to play better, man. They've got to play better. But this has been your 2019 NFL Week 12 post-game analysis show. I have been your host, and I hope you enjoyed it. The diligent, vigilant, meticulous, sagacious, conscientious, analytical, methodical individual. The Chiseled Adonis. I'm not headed back to the Shadow Realm, but I will be fading to black, participating in the Alistair Black Challenge.